We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Lars. Lars is interested in Auro3D. What? What does that say? Does that say he's interested in Auro3D?
That is what it says.
Weird. That's weird. I didn't think I'd ever read those words. Lars, sorry. Lars is interested in Auro3D in addition to Dolby Atmos and DTS:X. One of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not the same. Can you tell me which of these things actually exists in the real world? For one thing, Sony announced they would be releasing 10 Blu-ray and Ultra HD Blu-ray titles with Auro3D soundtracks this year. 10. They're all dancing ones. But Lars is mainly interested in is the Auro3D Up Mixer, which many reviewers have claimed sounds very good, especially with music. Yeah, okay. Okay. Let me give you a little insider tip on the reviewer thing. Anytime there's something that's not as popular as anything else and the reviewer says it sounds very good, especially with music, that's the reviewer trying to convince himself that he's cooler than everybody else because he has something that nobody else can use because he's the only one crazy enough to have the speaker setup that uses Auro3D. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. But maybe you buy it. If Lars would like to buy a consumer-level AV receivers such as a Denon AVR X6300H or a Marantz SR7011 and upgrade his theater for immersive audio, what speaker layout could he use to allow him to enjoy all three immersive audio formats? He has total freedom in speaker placement, but he does not want to disconnect and reconnect speakers with every format change, nor does he want to have to rerun the room correction program every time. So is there a one-speaker rule layout to rule them all? We've actually discussed this on the podcast a couple of times before, but I think it bears repeating. Auro3D essentially is all your normal speakers, your 7-point whatever or your 5-point whatever at ear height. Okay, there's another level above that's their height speakers that go directly above all of your speakers. Okay, so if you consider that, if you look around, and the Dolby one is a little bit different. They take speakers that go in a line from your main speakers all the way back to your surround back speakers. They go over your head. Okay, so the front height speakers and the rear height speakers would be very similar to the Auro3D front heights and rear height speakers to be in similar placement positions. The problem you run into is that the Voice of God speaker does not exist in any of the other formats.
Yeah, not in any of the other formats. Yeah.
So in order to get the Voice of God, basically you have to give up, I think in the Denon, you have to give up a subwoofer output.
That's right. You give up the second subwoofer output.
And then you connect that up to your whatever, but then you're talking about changing speaker layouts stuff. So you could do Auro3D without the Voice of God and then just height speakers, or you can kind of cheat at the front, top fronts and rear.
You can't call them that though.
Yeah, you can't call them that. You gotta call them heights.
The honest answer is there is the one speaker layout that is compatible with all three of these immersive formats. That is your 7 or 5 traditional floor level speakers at ear height, front heights, rear heights. If that is what you have set up, that configuration is compatible with all three, with Atmos, DTS:X, and Auro3D.
Right.
Auro3D, if Auro3D were the only format you were using, they would have you use surround heights rather than rear heights. But they're like close enough. It's something that works with the others. Surround heights aren't a speaker position that exists for DTS:X or Atmos.
Right.
So front heights, rear heights, that works. Now, you can still have the Voice of God speaker that has to be connected to an external amp. It does take up your second subwoofer output. That's what it uses. When you're listening to Atmos and DTS:X, there's simply nothing coming out of that output. When you're listening to Auro3D, there's the Voice of God channel coming out of there. So you don't have to manually
I thought you had to manually change that. No? It is not going to try to put out subwoofer signals to that one during that? Okay.
No.
Well,
in the configuration, in the configuration, it knows what speakers you have, and it uses what speakers it can for each of the formats. So it doesn't output anything from that Voice of God preamp output when you're listening to Atmos or DTS:X or anything else for that matter, only when you're listening to Auro3D. So you can have what would be 7.2, well, no, 7.1, because you only have the one subwoofer output. So you can have 7.1.4 plus Voice of God. That is a configuration you can have. You'll have front heights and rear heights. They should, if Auro3D is a priority, be at the 30-degree elevation. That'll still work for Atmos and DTS:X. It won't quite give you the stuff is coming from directly overhead effect.
Right.
It'll give you the stuff is coming from an elevated position effect. So you're giving up something to get something. You could sort of split the difference, get them a little bit higher, maybe to a 40 or even a 45-degree elevation. Auro3D doesn't really like you to go that high in elevation, but you could, and that'll get you a little bit more onto your ceiling instead of on your front wall or on your rear wall, to get you a little bit more of an overhead effect for Atmos and DTS:X. But you have to label them front heights, rear heights. That's it.
There you go. Have fun with that. Let us know how it works out. Want your question answered? Send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.